Have you ever felt completely and totally stuck? Like you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, but nothing's really clicking. Well, today we're going to get into the story of Jim Rohn. This is a guy who went from being flat broke to becoming a millionaire in just 6 years. And he did it by changing one single thing, his personal philosophy.
So I want you to picture this. At 25 years old, this was Jim Rohn's reality. He's living in America, the land of opportunity. He has a family he loves. On paper, he has every reason to be doing well. And yet, he's got pennies in his pocket, creditors are calling, he's embarrassed, and he feels like he's letting his family down.
So what gives, right? How does somebody with all these advantages end up so far behind? This was the question that was just eating him up inside. And the answer he finally found is what turned his entire life around.
Okay, so to really get the solution, we first have to understand how Rohn was seeing his problem. And honestly, like a lot of us, he was looking in all the wrong places.
If you had asked Rohn back then why he wasn't successful, he would have given you a whole long list of excuses. He blamed the government, high taxes, the economy, said things cost too much. He blamed everyone and everything but himself. It just never even occurred to him that the problem wasn't out there. The real problem was his own personal philosophy.
So the huge turning point for Rohn happened when he met a mentor who gave him a totally new way of looking at the world, a kind of framework for putting the whole puzzle of life together.
And that mentor's name was Earl Schoaf. He was a really successful and wealthy businessman, and for whatever reason, Schoaf saw something in this struggling 25-year-old and decided to take him under his wing. Now, what he taught Rohn wasn't some big, complicated secret, but man, was it life-changing.
Schoaf broke life down into 5 major pieces. And he explained it like this. If you can just get the very first piece right, your philosophy, all the other pieces, they just start to naturally fall into place. So the big takeaway here is that everything, and I mean everything, starts with your philosophy.
So what exactly did Schoaf mean by philosophy? Well, it's a lot simpler and way more powerful than you might think.
Rohn used this amazing analogy for this. Think of the wind as all the circumstances in your life, things you can't control, right? The economy, government policies, stuff like that. That wind, it blows on every single one of us. Your philosophy, though, that's the set of your sail. It's how you choose to respond to the wind, and that is what decides where you end up.
This quote just perfectly captures that whole shift in thinking. Instead of complaining about the wind, you focus on getting better at sailing. You go from being a victim of your circumstances to becoming the captain of your own life. And you do it just by working on yourself.
And this is where it gets really, really practical. Rohn said failure isn't some huge dramatic event. Nope, it's just a few small errors in judgment repeated every single day. Choosing a candy bar over an apple once, no big deal. But do that every day for a few years, that's a disaster in the making. And success, it's just the opposite. A few simple disciplines practiced every day. That's it.
So once you get your philosophy right, how does that actually change things in the real world? Well, it kicks off a chain reaction. It influences your attitude, your actions, and you guessed it, your results.
See, a healthy philosophy creates a powerful attitude. You start to see the past as a school you can learn from, not a club you're stuck in. The future becomes this exciting thing you get to design with your goals. You start seeing other people as partners, not competitors. And you see yourself as someone who's actually capable of amazing growth.
But look, a great attitude by itself isn't enough. The next piece of this puzzle is activity. This is where the magic really happens. All the amazing ideas and positive feelings in the world don't mean a thing if you don't take action. You gotta do the work. You have to plant the seed.
So how do you know if your philosophy and your actions are actually working? Simple. You measure the results. When Mr. Schoaf asked Rohn these 2 key questions, his answer to both was a big fat 0. The results don't lie, They give you that honest feedback you need to see what's broken so you can fix it.
And what were the results when Rohn finally changed his philosophy and started practicing these new disciplines? Well, he went from having pennies in his pocket at age 25 to becoming a millionaire by age 31. It's just an incredible example of how these small, simple shifts can compound into something massive over time.
And all of this, the philosophy, the attitude, the activity, the results, it all leads to the final and maybe most important piece of the puzzle, using all of it to consciously design the life you actually want to live.
Mr. Schoaf taught him this simple but profound truth. Getting wealthy isn't some accident. It's a subject you have to study, just like anything else. It comes from having a solid plan,
understanding how money works and then applying that knowledge day after day.
And the exact same principle applies to being happy. Happiness isn't something you just cross your fingers and hope for. It's something you design. It's an art that you practice every day through things like gratitude, being generous, and building real relationships. It's a skill you can actually develop.
So, the ultimate lesson from Jim Rohn isn't to just go out and copy his life. It's to learn from his process. Don't just be a follower, be a student. Take these ideas, really think about them, and make sure that the life you end up building is the product of your own conclusions. So the real question is, what's one small discipline you could start today?